The AI hardware bottleneck has shifted, and the second wave is here. While the world focused on GPUs, a massive capital reallocation toward inference compute and high capacity storage has quietly ended the monopoly. Today, we project the historic market surges of Intel and SanDisk through the lens of predictive algorithms.
The current capital reallocation in the semiconductor sector confirms a structural shift from AI training to persistent agentic inference. The ecosystem is moving out of the experimental pilot phase. Production-grade autonomous systems are now processing datasets at machine speed, operating continuously without human intervention. This evolution changes the hardware requirements. Parallelized floating point throughput is no longer the primary constraint, which effectively ends the unipolar GPU monopoly. Agentic AI is gated by the orchestration layer. These systems require rapid, sequential decision-making to coordinate between different models and external tools. They are also limited by the physical capacity of exascale memory. Every agentic interaction generates metadata and session states that must be stored permanently to maintain context. To meet these demands, data center architectures are rotating towards CPU-dense compute clusters. This shift extends to the storage tier, where infrastructure is rebuilt to support extreme capacity persistent arrays. Data movement acts as a tax. Rerouting logic through localized CPUs and high-density storage avoids latencies of moving context to an accelerator. Agentic AI is constrained by sequential logic and persistent state. This mathematical reality is resetting the hierarchy of the entire semiconductor industry. Intel's x86 architecture is positioned at the center of this logic orchestration layer, handling the complex sequential execution that parallel processors are not designed for. The company's Q1 2026 financial data supports this, showing 22% year-over-year revenue acceleration in the data center and AI group, reaching $5.1 billion. This growth is driven by the shift to inference, which requires high concurrency tool calling and real-time evaluation across thousands of files per hour. We can track this shift using a Bass diffusion model. Historically, the CPU to GPU ratio was as low as 1 to 8, but the installed base is now tightening toward parity. Legacy accelerator deployments are stalling as the initial build-out for model training reaches its saturation point. Simultaneously, the demand for orchestration compute is skyrocketing. The inference CPU curve is steepening and intersecting the GPU line as hyperscalers reallocate their budgets. Model outputs show that inference CPU sockets are growing at a 209% annual rate, compared to 13% growth for training-only GPUs. This shows that the market is aggressively cannibalizing capital previously reserved for the accelerator layer to fund the orchestration layer. Sustaining this forecasted CPU growth requires manufacturing capabilities that can produce high-performance logic at an unprecedented density. Intel has advanced its 18A node yields to production status ahead of its mid-year targets, providing the capacity needed for this next wave of processors. The upcoming 14A node will be the first to utilize high-NA extreme ultraviolet lithography, providing the precision necessary for sub-2 nanometer chip designs. These advanced nodes are being scaled through the Terafab initiative, a vertically integrated manufacturing complex in Austin, Texas. The facility's target is to produce 1 terawatt of AI compute capacity annually. For context, the combined global semiconductor production of all current manufacturers is estimated at roughly 20 gigawatts per year, making this target 50 times larger than current global output. Capturing terawatt-scale, vertically integrated manufacturing transforms the foundry into a provider of sovereign digital infrastructure. The second unyielding physical limit of the AI ecosystem is exascale data retention. The pressure on storage infrastructure has reached a capacity ceiling. Western Digital reported in early 2026 that 100% of its hard disk drive capacity is already sold out for the entire calendar year. 89% of this revenue comes from hyperscale AI cloud infrastructure, as large providers lock in supply via multi-year agreements. This is driven by the agentic storage contract. Autonomous agents operating at machine speeds generate massive volumes of interaction metadata and session history. A Gompertz growth curve shows why persistent memory is mandatory. Without it, agents face cold start latencies that degrade performance during complex tasks. This linear track represents the baseline for storage manufacturing, the steady increase in how much data we can fit on a physical platter. When we overlay the exponential growth of agent-generated metadata, a red void opens up between supply and demand. This is the storage deficit. Even with the introduction of new 40 terabyte drives, the volume of data generated by autonomous agents creates a structural deficit factor of 1.7. This gap represents a mathematical deficit in the global planetary capacity to hold persistent AI context. We can model the resulting financial shocks using Monte Carlo simulations, mapping out hundreds of pricing and supply chain probability distributions in real time. The probability clusters show that flash memory is the primary vulnerability in the current sourcing environment. The model predicts that NAND contract prices will jump by 70 to 75% within the quarter. This shortage is extending lead times for enterprise solid-state drives beyond 36 weeks, delaying large-scale infrastructure deployments. Hyperscalers are responding by front-loading high-density storage and flash memory to protect their AI projects from these spikes. Infrastructure spending on this triad of compute and storage now absorbs roughly 60% of total cloud provider capital expenditure. Securing silicon and platter inventory has become a zero-sum geopolitical imperative to secure remaining planetary capacity. By merging the Bass, Gompertz, and Monte Carlo models, we can forecast the structural equilibrium of the AI ecosystem through the year 2030. The resulting architecture is a balanced triad of hardware nodes, accelerators for training, logic orchestrators for inference, and exascale storage for persistent memory. The GPU is no longer the sole gatekeeper of artificial intelligence performance. Long-term capital will flow to foundries capable of terawatt-scale manufacturing and pure-play storage infrastructure that can manage zettabyte-scale persistence. The agentic supercycle is mathematically resetting the semiconductor hierarchy, cementing this hardware triad as the foundation of the global economy.